A man from Vancouver has been sentenced to 6 years in prison for his role in the Capitol riot on January 6, 2021. Mark Brew was found guilty of multiple charges, including obstruction of an official proceeding and civil disorder. Prosecutors say Brew traveled from Portland to Washington, D.C. on January 5th and woke up the next day, quote, ready for violence. They say he did not attend the rally held by then-President Trump. Instead, he marched to the Capitol grounds. He was one of the first to breach the perimeter and spent 2 hours yelling at officers. He joined a mob that broke through a police barricade and entered the building. He spent about 13 minutes inside. About 6 weeks later, prosecutors say he tried to organize a violent insurrection against the local government in Portland. He was arrested a few months after that. Brew will also pay nearly $10,000 in fines and restitution.